Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
What's going on, Blue Jays Nation? Welcome back. And if this is your first time here, make sure you smash that subscribe button because today we're diving into one of the most baffling decisions the Toronto front office made this offseason. We're talking about Edwin Diaz, the closer who just signed a $69 million deal with the Braves, and why the Blue Jays passing on him might go down as one of the worst mistakes in franchise history. This isn't hindsight. This isn't overreaction. This is about a team that was 2 outs away from a championship, not addressing their biggest weakness. Let's break this down. Here's the thing that drives me absolutely insane about this situation. The Blue Jays knew exactly what cost them the World Series. It wasn't the starting pitching. It wasn't the offense. It was the back end of the bullpen collapsing in the most crucial moment imaginable. Game 7, 2 outs away from glory, and the relief pitching couldn't get it done. Fast forward to this offseason, and Edwin Diaz, one of the most dominant closers of this generation, becomes available. He's on the market. He's looking for a new home, and Toronto decides to pass. Instead, they go out and sign Tyler Rogers, a 35-year-old sidewinder, for $37 million over 3 years. Make it make sense. Let me give you some context on who Edwin Diaz actually is, because some of you might only remember him from his rough patches or the injury he had. When healthy and locked in, this guy is legitimately unhittable. We're talking about a pitcher who can touch 102 miles per hour with his fastball and has a slider that buckles the knees of the best hitters in baseball. His strikeout rate is off the charts. His stuff is elite tier, the kind of arsenal that makes opposing hitters uncomfortable before they even step into the box. This is the guy you want on the mound when everything is on the line. This is the guy who gets you those final 2 outs that Toronto couldn't get last October. The Braves understood the assignment. They just lost the World Series too, and they said, you know what? We need to shore up the back end of our bullpen. We need a guy who can shut the door in high leverage situations. Edwin Diaz fits that description perfectly, so let's go get him. $69 million over 3 years. Done deal. Meanwhile, Toronto is sitting there with their spreadsheets and their analytics and their process, convincing themselves that closer isn't that important of a position, or that they can get similar production from a cheaper option. That's loser mentality right there. Let's talk about the money for a second, because I know some of you are going to say that $69 million is too much for a reliever. Is it, though? The Blue Jays just gave Tyler Rogers $37 million. They gave Dylan Cease $210 million. They gave Vladimir Guerrero Jr. over $500 million when you add everything up. They went over the luxury tax threshold and are paying penalties for it. So don't tell me they couldn't afford Edwin Diaz. They chose not to pay him, and there's a massive difference between can't afford and won't pay. This organization decided that having an elite closer wasn't worth the investment, and that's going to haunt them. Think about how many games are decided by 1 or 2 runs. Think about how many times last season the Blue Jays had a lead going into the 8th or 9th inning and couldn't hold it. Think about the playoffs, where every single pitch matters and you need guys who've been there before and won't crack under pressure. Edwin Diaz has closed out playoff games. He's been in the biggest moments. He has the mental toughness and the pure stuff to dominate when it matters most. Tyler Rogers is a nice pitcher, but he's not that guy. He's never been that guy, and he's not going to become that guy at age 35. The optics of this are terrible too. You're telling your fan base that came within 2 outs of a championship that you're running it back with essentially the same bullpen that failed you. Sure, you added Rogers, but he's not a significant upgrade over what you already had. You're telling Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who you just paid all that money to, that you're not actually going all in to win right now. You're telling the rest of the clubhouse that management is okay with being close but not quite good enough. That's a dangerous message to send when your championship window is wide open right now but won't stay that way forever. Here's what frustrates me even more. The Blue Jays have this reputation of being cheap when it matters most. They'll spend money, but they'll spend it on the wrong things, or they'll stop just short of what it takes to actually get over the hump. They went after Shohei Ohtani and lost. They pursued Juan Soto and missed. Now they let Edwin Diaz walk to a division rival in the National League, and for what? To save a few $1 million? to stick to some predetermined budget that clearly isn't working. At some point, you have to be willing to push your chips to the center of the table and go for it. Atlanta did that. Toronto didn't. Let's game out what this bullpen would have looked like with Edwin Diaz closing games. You've got him in the ninth inning, automatic. You've got some combination of Rogers and Jordan Romano setting him up if Romano is healthy. You've got depth pieces that can handle the middle innings. Suddenly, you have one of the most formidable late-game bullpens in baseball. That's the difference between winning close games and losing them. That's the difference between holding on to a division lead or watching it slip away in August and September. That's the difference between getting through the playoffs and watching your season end on a blown save. Instead, what do the Blue Jays have? They have question marks. Jordan Romano's health is always a concern. Tyler Rogers is solid but unspectacular. The rest of the bullpen is filled with guys who are fine in low leverage situations, but you don't necessarily trust when the game is on the line. And now Edwin Diaz is going to be closing out games for the Braves, probably in the playoffs, possibly against teams the Blue Jays needed to beat to get back to the World Series. How's that going to feel, watching him succeed somewhere else while Toronto's bullpen is blowing leads in crucial moments? The front office is going to spin this as being smart with money or having a plan or believing in internal development. That's all corporate speak for we didn't want to pay market value for an elite closer. Ross Atkins will stand up in some press conference and talk about depth and flexibility and all the other buzzwords that front offices use when they know they messed up but won't admit it. Mark Shapiro will back him up and say they feel confident in the guys they have. And then when the bullpen inevitably costs them games, they'll act surprised and start looking for midseason Band-Aid solutions that won't be as good as just signing Edwin Diaz in the first place. You want to know the really maddening part? The Blue Jays fan base has been incredibly patient. They've watched this team rebuild, retool, and finally get to the precipice of championship. They showed up to the Rogers Center in record numbers. They supported this team through everything. And in return, management won't spend the money necessary to get the final pieces that turn a good team into a championship team. That's a slap in the face to everyone who's invested emotionally and financially in this franchise. Edwin Diaz to the Braves for $69 million over 3 years is going to age like fine wine for Atlanta and like spoiled milk for Toronto. Mark my words, there's going to be a moment this season, probably in a crucial late season game or a playoff situation, where the Blue Jays bullpen fails them, and everyone's going to think about how Edwin Diaz was available and they passed. That's going to be the moment casual fans become critics and critics become furious. That's when the front office is going to have to answer some really uncomfortable questions about why they didn't do everything possible to win while they had the chance. This isn't about being negative or not supporting the team. I want the Blue Jays to win a World Series more than anything, but wanting it isn't enough. You have to be willing to make the tough decisions and spend the money on elite talent when it becomes available. Edwin Diaz was that talent. He was the closer this team desperately needed, and now he's wearing a Braves uniform while Toronto hopes Tyler Rogers and a prayer will be enough. Spoiler alert, it won't be. This is the kind of mistake that haunts franchises for years, and unfortunately, Blue Jays fans are going to have to live with watching what could have been every time Edwin Diaz takes the mound for Atlanta. All right, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know if you think I'm off base here or if you agree this was a massive mistake, and I'll catch you in the next video.